Welcome to today's edition of Global Health Issues. I'm Pauline Ng. Today we'll be talking about Konzo, an upper motor neuron disease. This podcast is brought to you by the Milken Institute School of Public Health, a school dedicated to the advancement of health of the populations of our local, national, and global communities. Gabby-Ganabu Kasanga was on his way home from the farm. He suddenly stopped in his tracks and could not feel his legs. It's as if my muscles suddenly turned into blocks. He had become another victim to Konzo. Over 100,000 people in the Democratic Republic of Congo suffer from the same condition that Kasanga experienced. Konzo is the upper motor neuron disease that causes irreversible paralysis of the legs. The most mildest form of Konzo features individuals who are unable to walk without support, and the most severe cases with paralysis from the waist down. Konzo predominantly occurs in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mozambique, and Tanzania, affecting the poorest people from the remotest areas in the world. In the African Yaka language, Konzo means bound legs. Konzo is attributed to the consumption of bitter cassava. In Konzo-affected areas, cassava has become a staple crop due to declining soil fertility and increased costs of inorganic fertilizers. Cassava is drought-tolerant, grows on poor soil without fertilizer, and produces acceptable yields even on depleted lands. In times of agricultural crisis, cassava is the dominant and only source of food. Bitter cassava is usually soaked and sufficiently sun-dried to allow for the breakdown of its cyanogenic compounds. When cassava is not sufficiently processed, outbreaks of Konzo occur. However, in times of war, famine, displacement, and droughts, people take shortcuts in cassava processing. Thus, when unprocessed bitter cassava is consumed, it breaks down and releases hydrogen cyanide, a toxin. Hydrogen cyanide in cassava can be combated in several ways. The wetting method requires to pound the cassava into a flour and mix it with water to detoxify the plant. This process is less time-consuming than the traditional method while still substantially decreasing cyanide content. Moreover, as long as the person has enough protein in their diet, amino acids will convert cyanide into thiocyanate, a less toxic substance excreted in urine. Konzo still remains a rarely discussed disease. Hundreds of thousands of cases have remained unreported. Konzo is spreading all over tropical Africa. In rural areas, the consumption of bitter cassava is likely to continue to grow if there is no change on current economic and agricultural policies. Local governments need to address Konzo outbreaks before they happen. Agricultural reform and assistance in development of other drought-resistant crops would lessen the impact of Konzo. Moreover, a mass media education campaign should be launched to encourage the wetting method. Nearly 300 million tons of cassava are harvested every year, with Africa leading in consumption. It is absolutely critical to put eliminating Konzo on the global development agenda. This was Pauline Ng, back next week with more stories on global health issues.